This is Lost Media, found in 2023. Yuri the Spaceman. One of the earliest pieces of Lost Media I talked about on this channel was Yuri the Spaceman, an obscure French Cartoon Network show that aired in 2002. Comprised of 3-minute episodes, it followed the adventures of an astronaut named Yuri, who was stranded on the moon. Information about the series was scarcely available until 2014, when missing episodes started appearing throughout the years. And on New Year's Day of 2023, the remaining lost episodes were found by Floor-Licking Crud. He stated on Reddit that he had recorded the series back when it was still airing on Cartoon Network. The Diamond Brothers, South by Southeast. Originally airing on British children's network CITV in 1991, The Diamond Brothers, South by Southeast was a 6-episode adaptation of the third entry in the Diamond Brothers detective book series. While the book series has assembled a fan following throughout the years, this miniseries is relatively obscure and unknown, primarily due to it only airing that one time throughout 1991. Fast forward to 2021, when the YouTube channel Dragonarch Productions uploaded the 1-minute series intro. The uploader confirmed that the entire series was in their possession, though refused to release it due to copyright concerns. It wasn't until July of 2022 that the first episode was uploaded in full by a user named Matthew Hopkins. This same user would gradually upload all 6 episodes by January 2nd of 2023, marking the entire series found. Sesame Street, Gymnast, and Dina and Pearl skits. A lot of Sesame Street's earlier content has been lost or extremely difficult to come across, but in January, some of their rare content appeared online. First are the gymnast segments, in which a female gymnast demonstrates various concepts through her performance. Only 2 of the 8 segments were accounted for, until this year when the entire series was found on New Year's Day. Next is Dina and Pearl, a quirky duo that never found much popularity. They appeared in a grand total of 4 skits before being forgotten about. Now, most of them are online, albeit in different languages. A few days after the gymnast segments were found, Dina and Pearl's English skits were also rediscovered. Landy NES. There is absolutely no shortage of modern game emulators around today, but among the very first to exist for the Nintendo Entertainment System was created back in 1996, known as Landy NES. It was created by a man named Alex Kravisky, known online as Landy. Despite only reaching the beta stage of development, Landy NES will later become the basis for the iNES emulator that pioneered the .NES file formats. After this, Landy became lost, as better emulators took its place. That is until 2023, when Twitter user WaluigiBSOD announced they had discovered Landy NES on Jason Scott's Discmaster website. Apparently, the emulator was included in the ISO of a CD called Hacker's Chronicle. Though the funny thing is that the ISO of said CD was uploaded to the Internet Archive way back in mid-2020 by a user named Shiva Shah. It just goes to show that Lost Media can be hiding anywhere. Space Monster Wang Magui. Southeast Asia saw a boom in kaiju movies during the 1950s to 1970s, but many of them have become lost. Space Monster Wang Magui was among these films. Unlike other lost kaiju films of that era, it was well documented and preserved, being listed in 3 separate film archives and shown at film festivals on occasion. Despite that, this film never saw a home video release. While this movie was confirmed to still physically exist, it wasn't readily available to the public. The only footage online was a short 15-second clip, possibly recorded from a TV broadcast. SRS Cinema, a North American low-budget film distributor, announced that they had obtained the rights to Space Monster Wang Magui in June of 2022. Following this, the movie saw its first official Blu-ray release on January 13th. De Blob DS. Not to be confused with A Boy and His Blob, which was found last year, De Blob is yet another unreleased DS game that was recovered in January of this year. Developed for the Nintendo Wii by THQ, this DS version was originally intended to release in tandem with the Wii game in 2008. While an abundance of articles mentioned the upcoming DS port, no screenshots were even seen, and this, the Blob DS, was quietly cancelled. the little information given suggests that this port may not have been that far in development. On January 21st, a video uploaded by fellow YouTuber Rebel Taxi unveiled footage of the Blob DS that came from a debug build they received from an anonymous source. It's fairly short and only features 3 stages. The full ROM was made available by Rebel Taxi that same day. The Jenny Jones Show, Same-Sex Crushes. In 1995, daytime talk show The Jenny Jones Show taped an episode titled Same-Sex Crushes, in which a man named Scott Amadeur revealed his secret crush to his coworker, Jonathan Schmitz. A few days later, the two ended up going out for drinks, and it allegedly got sexual. Amadeur left Schmitz a suggestive note, but Schmitz didn't respond too favorably. He withdrew some money, purchased a shotgun, and killed Amadeur. Shortly after, he phoned the police to confess his crime. Following the murder, Schmitz was sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison, but is currently free. The intensive media coverage encouraged show producers to never air the Jenny Jones Show episode, though brief snippets have appeared on occasion. In 2023, a Reddit user discovered that the full episode was available on Court TV's website. It's apparently been there since June of 2022, but no one knew until this year, and no one knows why it's there. Hell Has Harbor Views. Despite being nominated for 6 awards, and winning one of them, the made-for-television film Hell Has Harbor Views was seemingly forgotten about after the few times it aired. The plot involved a lawyer named Hugh Walker, who gets entangled with a journalist named Caroline, while also discovering a scandal within his office. All that was available was a 2-minute clip and a few stills, until this year, when the YouTube channel The Aussie Archivist uploaded the film online. You Can't Do That on Television. You Can't Do That on Television was a Canadian sketch comedy series that ran from 1979 to 1990. Despite not originating on Nickelodeon, the series is considered the origin of Nickelodeon's trademark green slime, as the show's cast often had slime dumped on them during skits. The show saw consistent reruns up until 1994. It then saw brief airings on Teenix retro TV block The Splat. No home video release occurred, and the full catalog of episodes was lost. Though it was rumored that every episode's masters were destroyed at some point, select episodes were gradually being recovered from home VHS recordings and through vintage encodes, shared during the early internet. Some episodes were even officially released through Paramount Plus in 2021. Finally, on January 26, 2023, the last remaining episodes were uploaded to the Internet Archive and Mega by users ak.fade and GregioGuy, respectively. Our Footloose remake. This one's a bit confusing, but basically, Footloose is a super iconic 80s film that we've all probably heard about. In 2008, a remake was announced. Following this announcement, 2 producers named David Seeger and Tim Markowitz made their own parody movie called Our Footloose Remake, released in 2010. It was originally intended to mock the official remake and split the work up among 54 different filmmaking teams. This resulted in a collage of wildly different scenes, varying in direction and tone. Our Footloose remake saw a modest premiere at the Downtown Independent Theater of Los Angeles. 1 year later, in April 2011, the full film was uploaded to Vimeo by David Seger. The movie was available until a copyright complaint removed it in 2018. Following this, the search for the film resulted in locating each individual filmmaker responsible for the 54 unique scenes and seeing if they uploaded their part online. Only 18 scenes were recovered this way, and after some time, Our Footloose remake surfaced once again in full, courtesy of archive.org user Rob T. Firefly. Muppet Guys Talking, bonus content. The 2017 documentary film Muppet Guys Talking is exactly how it sounds. 65 minutes of conversation between 5 Muppeteers. The film was directed by Frank Oz, known for his extensive work on The Muppet Show and Sesame Street. Muppet Guys Talking had a very limited distribution, premiering at the SXSW Film Festival before becoming available solely through its website. While outtakes and clips were recovered in the years following, the full film was eventually uploaded to the Internet Archive by user Todd409. The Return of Jezebel James. This short-lived Fox sitcom saw a brief run in 2008, as only 3 of its 7 episodes officially aired due to low ratings. The show followed a children's book writer and her relationship with her estranged sister. While Fox never aired episodes 4 through 7, all episodes were available for purchase on the iTunes Store 2 months following the cancellation, though were later removed. Daniel Palladino, who currently hosts the podcast Gilmore Guys, was contacted regarding the lost episodes, but to no avail. Finally, on February 5th, Reddit user Cuddlebuns discovered they still had iTunes downloads of the full series in their possession. Subsequently, they uploaded the files to gofile.io, marking the sitcom as found. A self-induced hallucination. In 2018, director Jane Schoenbrunn released A Self-Induced Hallucination, a documentary about Slenderman, the famous creepypasta character. It was composed almost entirely of YouTube videos, including homemade films, news reports, snippets of video essays, and so on. The film was available on Vimeo before being taken down for unknown reasons. On February 1st, a user named File-Saving Archivist of Moving Image Things posted the entire documentary to the Internet Archive. In response, Schoenbrunn stated that this wasn't the final cut of the film, which she later uploaded on February 7th. Bluey pilots. Pilots often go lost or unreleased, and the Australian children's show Bluey is no exception. 2 pilots were produced prior to the show's 2018 premiere. First, a 1-minute test animation in 2016, which featured Bluey being pushed on a swing by her father Bandit. He isn't paying attention, so the swing eventually goes too high and crashes into him. This animation was only passed around the office, with the creator feeling it set an unsafe example. The second pilot was a 6-minute animation that was pitched and later picked up by the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and the BBC. It had no public release, though screenshots were found in a 2017 ABC News article. This pilot featured a story that would eventually be reworked as an episode of Season 1. Both pilots were recovered and made available online by Twitter user ThatOnePickle, who had received them from an anonymous user within 5 days of each other. Chucky, Wanna Play? Chucky Wanna Play was a cancelled video game by Tick Games, based on the famous killer doll of the same name. The game would have allowed the player to control Chucky as he goes on his murderous rampage. The project was funded via Kickstarter but failed to reach its goal of nearly $1 million. As such, the project was canned and the game never saw an official release. On February 14th, a prototype of the game appeared online by an Internet Archive user named Riley5411. According to the post description, it was found on an Xbox 360 dev kit. Fear Factor, MTV Spring Break Edition. We all remember Fear Factor, the iconic 2000s competition show involving extreme and sometimes terrifying challenges. While the show used to have lost episodes, most of them were made available thanks to Hulu. All except for one, the MTV Spring Break Special. Now, according to Hulu, the episode remained unavailable due to copyright issues. It was apparently about 4 contestants in Cancun competing for $5,000, according to a plot summary from TV.com. No footage existed online, making this the only lost episode of Fear Factor. However, a user named Race Olympics received a copy of the episode from a collector. It was then posted on MySplane and the Internet Archive, marking it as found. Normandy Invasion Juno Beach footage. This is a rare instance of historic lost media being found and preserved. The Normandy Invasion, more commonly referred to as D-Day, was a pivotal battle during World War II that took place on June 6, 1944. This invasion saw the Allied forces invading Northern Europe through Normandy, France. The footage was discovered by Reddit user Jedi Rain, who had purchased a 60mm film reel from an estate sale in 2017. Unable to properly view and digitize the contents until this year, the user was surprised to find the film featured undocumented footage of Juno Beach following the initial Normandy invasion. After doing further research, they found that this footage had never been publicly seen, and uploaded it to YouTube on February 24th. Evangelion 3.33 Theatrical English Dub. Neon Genesis Evangelion is a well-known 1995 anime created by Hideaki Anno. While the original series did see a finale with episodes 25 and 26, a series of films were produced in the years following, retelling the 1995 series. One of these alternate films is 2012's Evangelion 3.33. The film was localized by Funimation a year later, and a dub premiere was shown at New York Comic Con that October. After that premiere, this dub was scrapped entirely. It was redone with the same voice cast, but now with direction from Studio Kara, the animation company that made the film. The official reason was that the animation studio wanted more direct translations of the original Japanese version. The first Funimation dub went lost, with only bootleg recordings of the Comic-Con showing being up online. It finally resurfaced in full this year, courtesy of Twitter user Pokemon Crystal Vivo, when they obtained a rare screener DVD of the film. Following their announcement, the full unrevised dub was uploaded to both Mega and Archive.org. Silent Hill Exotica. This piece is a formerly lost mod for the game Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It was titled Silent Hill Exotica and was sparingly distributed online. It was described as including various monsters from the Silent Hill game series and filling the game map with a heavy fog, reminiscent of the Silent Hill games themselves. Many fans simply believe this mod to be either extremely rare or even just a myth within the community. That is, until the mod was recently discovered by chance. Reddit user Mystic Channel had purchased a hacked original Xbox and noticed that Silent Hill Exotica was installed onto the console. On March 15th, after becoming aware of its rarity, they made a post onto r/lostmedia with questions on how to upload the file online. They were eventually able to do so on March 18th, and the mod is now downloadable on archive.org. Cartoon Network NBA All-Star Slam. For one day, February 9th of 2003, Cartoon Network hosted a 6-hour marathon highlighting various NBA players of the time. Peppered within the cartoons were interviews with players, who talked with their favorite cartoon characters on the network. This included Shaquille O'Neal with Godzilla, and Elton Brand with Space Ghost. 13 of these interviews aired in total, and after this marathon, they simply vanished. In the years following, the interviews were slowly being recollected, though were not found in full until March 19th of this year. 4 of the 13 were uploaded to YouTube by user Captain BZ. Later on, the Bugs Bunny interview was provided by C. Martin Crocker, a voice actor for Cartoon Network during this time. The remaining 8 were uploaded by the YouTube channel Retro CCN, marking this entire interview series completely found. George Lopez / Dora the Explorer commercial. In an unlikely collaboration, Nick Jr. had aired a commercial promoting the sitcom George Lopez in the spring of 2008. The promo featured Lopez lost inside an episode of Dora the Explorer, asking Dora and Boots how to get to Nick at night, as the late-night TV block was airing reruns of his show at the time. Discussions on the existence of this commercial picked up around 2022, following Reddit posts and an LMW forum poster discussing the ad and including images. On March 7th of 2023, fellow YouTuber L Supersonic Q addressed this mystery in a compilation video. Within that same month, the full promo was uploaded to YouTube by user Marbs, after finding it by chance while watching a Nick Jr. recording of the Backyardigans. Star Quest English Dub. Gainax, best known for producing the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, has an extensive history, dating back to 1907 with their debut film Royal Space Force Wings of Honeomes. While the movie premiered in Japan in March of that year, it surprisingly saw its official debut in Los Angeles a month prior, under the name Star Quest. This premiere at the Chinese Man Theater was dubbed in English and never shown or released afterwards. The cast of this dub is unknown, and the quality of the dub is questionable. Star Quest was thought to be gone for good, until 2014 when a few clips surfaced. Finally, on March 31st, the film was recovered in full by Nicholas Wallstrom, who claimed it was now obtainable due to entering the public domain.
Some pilot I turned out to be. I've ended up at the Space Academy, the armpit of the military. How depressing. Ugh. Who the hell wants to go to a funeral? Especially for someone as young as yourself. Ugh, look at the time. I'm late already.
Blue Songo. This obscure computer game saw Japan only release on PC and Mac in the year 1997. Blue Songo is a 3D adventure game featuring point-and-click mechanics and a series of puzzles. The game was well documented during its release window, being shown in multiple magazines and featured on the webpage of the developer. The archived version of the site only preserved one of multiple images, and this prompted some online to begin searching for the game as early as 2020. This led to the discovery of the box art and 2 online auctions. On April 1st, Internet Archive user Beanstalk Redump uploaded the entire game online. 680 Home Appliances commercial. During the 1990s, citizens of the Philippines would occasionally be unnerved by this disturbing commercial related to 680 Home Appliances, a Filipino appliance store located in Manila. Opening with the chime of a piano chord and creepy choir voices, the video shows some electronics that are partially constructed, with pieces appearing out of thin air to complete the assemble. Possibly the most disturbing aspect of the commercial is the constant droning of a heavy bass sound in the background. Overall, the commercial gives the vibes of being created as a side gig by a horror movie director. The last airing of this commercial was in the year 2000. It wasn't until April 3rd, 2023, that the commercial would be unearthed and uploaded to Facebook by View on the Third Jojo Balon. The Beatles live at Stowe School, Buckinghamshire. Who doesn't love the Beatles? The world-famous English rock band is considered to be the most influential band of all time. But did you know that the earliest known full recording of a live concert they played in the UK has only recently been discovered? In the middle of their UK tour, the group's manager, Brian Epstein, was asked by a student named David Moores if they would be willing to perform for the student body at Stowe Boarding School in Buckinghamshire. Epstein, recognizing the boy's family name, agreed to the booking for a fee of £100, which Moores raised by selling tickets to his schoolmates. On April 4th, 1963, the Beatles performed for the student body, as an hour-long quarter-inch tape recording was made by one of the students. Part of the tape would air on April 3rd, 2023, almost exactly 60 years from the recording date, on BBC's Front Row broadcast. Guardians of the Cosmos pilot. Guardians of the Cosmos is very much like the Toonmaker's Sailor Moon pilot. However, this specific pilot was based on the 1986 anime Saint Seiya. It's animated with a westernized art style and features an altered story, meant to appeal to American viewers. This cartoon was produced in 1993 by Renaissance Atlantic, a company that was also involved in the 1994 Sailor Moon pilot. This full episode was found unexpectedly by YouTuber Ray Mona when obtaining documents and media related to Sailor Moon from the Library of Congress. Following this find, Guardians of the Cosmos was uploaded in full on April 9th. The Holy Bible. The Game Boy Advance and its predecessors saw an abundance of bizarre applications and peripherals. Many went unreleased, and Rainbow Mission's adaptation of the Holy Bible was no exception, literally being the entire Bible on the Game Boy Advance. This game was very close to completion, being published by Cave Entertainment and having completed box art. The Holy Bible was set for release, but the project was ultimately cancelled. Not much is actually known about this cancelled project. That is, until Twitter user Great Gonzalez provided the prototype to Forest of Illusion on April 10th. This game was one of the final pieces preserved by Forest of Illusion themselves, as the preservation group disbanded shortly after. Spartacus and the Sun Beneath the Sea, English dub. Between 1985 and 1987, a French animated sci-fi adventure series aired with the title The Engulfed Worlds, which was later dubbed Spartacus and the Sun Beneath the Sea. The show involved a lost city far below the surface of Earth named Arcadia, with its own small sun called Terra. When Terra became ill, the Arcadian citizens began to search for a cure, facing dangers such as the clay armies of a Chinese emperor, a giant cosmic chess game, and even Alice's Wonderland as they traveled on their sentient robot spaceship named Terrig. An English dub of the show aired on Nickelodeon from 1985 to 1987, and a new intro was created by the band Menudo for Season 2. The show continued to be rebroadcast on Saturday mornings through the early 1990s. Despite a French DVD release, the English version never saw a physical release. While many of the episodes are available online, 10 episodes, 5 from Season 1 and 5 from Season 2, had gone missing. On April 11th, 2023, Lost Media Wiki user Garrett CRW found the entire series available on SBS On Demand in Australia. With the help of another user named Neo the Bird from MySpleen, they were able to rip the series before it was taken down and post it to archive.org. Mario NetQuest. While a wide variety of Super Mario games have been produced over the years, Mario NetQuest was the very first web browser game created that featured Mario. This game was officially backed by Nintendo, though produced by an early web design company known as C3. Gameplay itself was a simple whack-a-mole style layout with Mario characters. Oddly enough, the reason this game existed was to promote a new model of IBM computers. Mario NetQuest was virtually unknown, though rediscovered by chance by Reddit user Waifu Groove on April 14th. Following this find, the game was preserved by Flashpoint Archives. Family Game Night. Imagine if board games were supersized to real life and turned into interactive game shows for contestants. This was the premise of the show Family Game Night, which aired on 2010 on the Hub Network. The show was hosted by Todd Newton and ran for 5 seasons. Reruns of the show would continue until 2016. However, once Discovery stopped airing the show, finding any remaining episodes became a challenge. It wasn't until January 6, 2019, that Lost Media Wiki forum user Ethan Parment created a thread with the goal of locating 2 game shows from the Hub Network, The Game of Life and Family Game Night. While some replies referred to Tubi TV, an online streaming service, eventually the episodes listed there were also removed. Over the course of the next 4.5 years, a number of people collaborated to find the missing episodes, contacting Tubi TV, Discovery Plus, and even Todd Newton directly, the host of the show. Through a combined effort, all of the episodes were eventually gathered on April 17, 2023, and the entire show is now available on the Internet Archive. The Humpback Hop. On March 17, 2022, a user named MusicMasterYT created a thread on the Lost Media Wiki forums regarding a background song called The Humpback Hop from SpongeBob SquarePants. Claiming it as one of the most sought-after tracks, MusicMasterYT explained that the composer, Theo Mondel, no longer had the original master. In the episode Party Pooper Pants, the track can be heard. But due to sound effects and audio layovers, a clean rip of the song cannot be done. In their post, MusicMasterYT urges users to contact Nickelodeon, who has the rights to the track, as well as THQ Nordic or Purple Lamp Studios. It's not known how many users fulfilled MusicMasterYT's request. However, one user named DarkRage6 did post a response they received from THQ Nordic, where the company stated that they would forward the request to the production department. 7 months later, on April 28, 2023, user Eureka1989 shared a link to the song which had been found, and was posted on the Sponge Divers Music's YouTube channel. James Bond Car Collection UK ad. From 2007 to 2017, there was a magazine series called the James Bond Car Collection, which was dedicated to showcasing a comprehensive collection of model cars featured in the James Bond movies. Each issue in the series comprised a magazine, and a 143 diorama model of a James Bond car from one of the movies. The magazine contained the technical details of the car released alongside it, as well as other content related to the film. In total, 135 issues were released over the 10-year period. While the James Bond Car Collection originated in the UK, other countries also published the series. international advertisements are readily available to watch, such as the ones from Malaysia, Italy, and the Czech Republic. However, the original UK ad was not known to have been posted anywhere online. Not only did the advertisements from other commercials feature different cars compared to the UK version, but they also have other variations, and are not simply redubs of the original UK ad. But it wasn't until April 28, 2023, that a YouTuber named Blue Frog would finally upload the original advertisement in its entirety. My Somber Existence. In 2001, a Canadian nu metal band called Nerve Pitch released their demo titled How We Change. Following the demo release on November 26, 2002, the band played a showcase show for Roadrunner Records. A few months later, on January 25, 2003, the band released their first album, titled My Somber Existence. However, the band failed to get signed to Roadrunner Records. And after playing their last show on February 1st, the band's activity on social media stopped. Despite never making a formal announcement, the band ultimately disbanded. Of the 11 tracks on their album, only 5 songs remained available in very low quality. The bassist, John, lost the album in a house fire, while the drummer Scotty B did not have the original record. The vocalist, Ryan Moonlight, unfortunately passed away in 2015. However, the guitarist, Julius Snyder, was eventually tracked down by an LMW user and nu metal preservation Discord server member named Infrareign. Julius explained that he had ripped the files from the CD to his computer in the highest audio quality, but had yet to release them due to being very busy with work. Following their conversation, Julius sent the files for the entire album, their demo, and a live show to Infrareign, and told her that she was free to share with anyone. On April 29th, 2023, the full album was shared on the Kaylee's Crimson Rarities YouTube channel. A Charlie Brown Valentine with Tiger Woods. Jimmy Kimmel Live is a late-night talk show, created and hosted by Jimmy Kimmel himself. The show sometimes features skits in the format of the animated show Peanuts. For years, fans thought that these skits were not real, since sources referring to them were unreliable. One such source, and the earliest known evidence of a Valentine skit, comes from an article from Portland Mercury that states, Jimmy Kimmel presents this updated version of the Charlie Brown Valentine special, in which Snoopy gets a little advice on pitching woo from Tiger Woods. To add some context, back in 2009, world-famous golfer Tiger Woods had a car accident, which would be the catalyst for a series of news publications about his private life, revealing that he had extramarital affairs with over half a dozen different women. As evidence of this, some of the text messages he had sent had been publicly exposed. The Valentine skit from Jimmy Kimmel Live had Snoopy type some messages and share them with some of the female characters from the show. The messages Snoopy types are allegedly the same as the text messages Tiger Woods had sent some of the women. For anyone who doubted the existence of this Valentine skit, on May 1st, 2023, a Lost Media Wiki user named Corentin Siegfried found the original episode on archive.org, with the skit being available at the 12-minute mark. Castlevania the Arcade. What may be the rarest released Castlevania game is Castlevania the Arcade. Released only to Japan arcades in 2009, the arcade cabinet is large and unique. The game itself is similar to House of the Dead, but with motion controls, and did poorly upon release. For these reasons, this arcade machine is extremely rare and difficult to obtain. Despite everything, Castlevania the Arcade has been sought after by fans for years. Few cabinets have been contained by collectors, but preserving the game has proven to be very difficult. That is until May 6th, when Dremcast, a member of the video game Esoterica Discord server, made the game playable on Windows. 4Cat and 7 years ago. Between the years 2011 and 2017, a Newgrounds user and musician named 4Cat became popular for producing songs that openly mocked one of the Newgrounds audio portal moderators named Broken Deck, who supposedly referred to 4Cat's music as spam. 4Cat's grudge against Broken Deck led to inspiration for a number of songs, including All I Do Is Spam, Broken Diss, 4Cat is the Best, Broken Deck Perspective, and Spam for 4Cat Spam. On October 2nd, 2016, 4Cat uploaded a Name Your Own Price EP to his Bandcamp page, titled 4Cat and 7 Years Ago, which featured 6 different tracks, some of which were collaborations with other artists and friends of his from Newgrounds. However, in 2019, this album, as well as 4Cat's Newgrounds account, would be taken down, and any music that wasn't fully archived was lost. Reasons for the music's removal remain a mystery, and it's still unknown whether 4Cat was actually banned from Newgrounds or not. On June 9th, 2022, Internet Archive user Era Bomb Goes Boom uploaded a large number of 4Cat's songs to the site, but only 2 of the 6 tracks from the EP have been found. It wasn't until a year later, on May 8th, 2023, that Lost Media Wiki user At Risk Media Archive would find and upload the full EP to YouTube. Moonkiki's Castles. Released in 2002, Moonkiki's Castle was only downloadable through the defunct Club Nokia service. In addition, this very early mobile game was only playable on one specific phone model, the Nokia 3410. It was the first mobile game with 3D graphics and ran on the Java ME platform. Because this game will only run on one specific Nokia phone, extracting the file and making it playable elsewhere was difficult. In 2017, Lost Media Wiki user QWERTY36078 had obtained the game file itself. It was finally on May 9th that 2 playable variants were made available online, courtesy of David Richardson and Vanessa Sammers. Blunderbirds, Talk Robots. Robot Wars is a robot combat game show that aired on BBC from 1998 to 2004, and from 2016 to 2018. One prominent team from the show, named the International Rec Crew, competed in the first 5 main series, as well as a spin-off called Robot Wars Extreme Series 1. Their machines all ran with the Plunderbird alias, with Plunderbird 2 reaching the semifinals of Series 2, and being their most successful. Even more popular than their machines, the main team members Mike Onslow and Brian Kilburn became well known among Robot Wars fans, due to their tough guy personas on-screen, as well as their helpfulness behind the scenes. In 2016, Mike Onslow made plans to create a mockumentary film that would cover the team's history of creating machines, interviews, robot combat and educational events, and more. In 2017, they worked with Cinema Color Media to film the mockumentary, titled Plunderbirds, Talk Robots. And in 2018, they had a teaser trailer ready for the public. However, after a failed Kickstarter campaign in February 2019, the film remained incomplete and unreleased. That is until the 45-minute film was quietly released on Amazon Prime a few years later. Due to the lack of announcement, it wasn't until May of this year that the film's release would become common knowledge to the robot combat community. Rock Odyssey. In 1981, Hanna-Barbera came up with the idea of an animated TV special for ABC, titled Rock Odyssey. The film featured many popular songs at the time, by artists such as Jerry Lewis, The Beatles, and Wham, with the songs being covered by the studio's own singers. Directed by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, and co-directed by Robert Taylor, the film takes the viewer through a tour into the history of rock, with an animated jukebox host voiced by Scammon Crothers. The film received negative reviews, and was never released on VHS or DVD. On top of this, the film never aired on television in the US, and was only screened once at the Los Angeles International Animation Celebration in 1987. Due to this, the film was lost for many years. In 2018, a version of the film was released by Lost Media Wiki user NoTellYou. This version was created using a combination of the high-quality Spanish VHS tapes and a low-quality English cell phone recording. However, uploads continued to be removed from archive.org and YouTube, hinting that Warner Bros. Was still persistently making copyright claims. A few years later, in May of 2023, a user sent a copy of an official English version from a Sky TV broadcast from 1993 to NoTellYou, who then uploaded it to Google Drive, finally rendering the film 100% found. JBVO, Dragon Ball Z episode. JBVO was a short-lived programming block and spin-off of the Cartoon Network show Johnny Bravo that lasted from February 2000 to August 2001. The block involved Johnny Bravo taking on various cartoon requests from viewers who called into the show. While most involved shorter cartoon segments, one featured a unique, sped-up episode of the anime Dragon Ball Z. In addition, Johnny Bravo himself narrated the clip.
Alright, right here, Goku is on Namek fighting that Frieza guy. Okay. Alright, now back on Earth, those Namek's dudes are recuperating. There's that Guru guy. Oh, yeah.
This specific episode has been highly sought after within the community for years, and was even doubted to exist at all. It was finally on May 14th when the full episode surfaced, courtesy of a Discord user named Sanders Planet, whose mother had worked on JBVO itself. Fist Firehead. On August 4th, 2007, a user named DarkFallsX uploaded video footage to YouTube of an unreleased, incomplete game called Fist Firehead that was made for the first Xbox console. The game was being produced by Canadian company Beenox Studios. Quote, "The game is absolutely terrible," DarkFallsX writes in the video description. As the controls were clunky, there was a lack of a lock-on feature, and the balance was poor to the point where enemies were damage sponges, and the player would die in just a few hits. The game was rejected by Microsoft as an Xbox release candidate. However, Beenox Studios would proceed to give the game a visual update, and continue to work on it for another 6 months before ultimately canceling the production after a second rejection by Microsoft. Quote, "I worked on enough games to know that if this hasn't been fixed by late beta, it most likely wouldn't be fixed at all," said DarkFallsX with regards to the controls and camera. Despite the unreleased state of the game, a full copy of the game's final beta version was found and uploaded to archive.org in its preserved state. Interestingly, the uploader was also DarkFallsX, the same person who posted the original gameplay footage 15 years ago, though they claimed they were not one of the coders, and had, quote, "very little involvement with the project." Class of 96. Class of 96 was a Fox teen drama that saw a brief run in the year 1993, lasting only from January to May of that year and spanning 17 episodes. The show was meant to be similar to Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place, but it received mixed reviews. It was ultimately cancelled due to poor ratings. No home video release was seen, and Class of 96 became lost. VHS recordings of the show had surfaced over the years, but no significant finds were made until this year, when 12 of the 17 episodes were recovered by Lost Media Wiki users Grigio Guy and N. Smith15 respectively. Gremlins R-rated screenplay. Gremlins is a 1984 American comedy horror film written by Chris Columbus and directed by Joe Dante with Steven Spielberg as an executive producer. The film features Zach Galligan as Billy Peltzer, a young man who receives a bizarre creature known as a mogwai as a pet. The pet soon begins to multiply rapidly. Despite warnings to avoid exposing the creature to bright light, water, or feeding it after midnight, circumstances soon escalated to a point where the situation spiraled out of control. This led to the transformation of the mogwai into mischievous gremlins that unleashed havoc on Billy's hometown. The film was released to commercial and critical acclaim, though not without controversy. Some people felt that the film was too violent for the expected standard of a PG film. A month later, the Motion Picture Association created the PG-13 rating to better accommodate films like Gremlins. The interesting thing about all of this is that the initial screenplay for Gremlins was even more dark and violent. Upon reading the screenplay for the first time, Steven Spielberg called it, quote, "one of the most original things he had come across in many years." After collaborating with Spielberg, Columbus was able to tone down the story, resulting in the version that was ultimately released. While the original screenplay was never officially made public, it did indeed circulate the dark corners of the industry, until ending up in a collection owned by Lost Media Wiki user YoshiKiller2s. Apparently, YoshiKiller had the screenplay in his collection for around a year, until May 17th, 2023, when another user, Acrylic, would notify YoshiKiller that the screenplay was for the original R-rated version and not the PG draft. Brainstem Preview Version. Pinky and the Brain is an animated television show that premiered in 1995 about two mice who develop schemes to take over the world. The show is a spin-off from the animated series Animaniacs. The third episode of the show ends with a song called Brainstem, which is about the different parts of the brain. Now, a preview of the Brainstem song was aired before the show's premiere. However, the preview was somewhat different from the original song, with Brain saying at one part, "Now let's get the show on the road, yes," instead of, That ought to keep the little squirts happy, yes. Other than a brief mention on a tribute page to Kids WB, no footage of this preview had surfaced, until May 17th, 2023, when Peter Paltridge, the writer of the tribute page, ripped a recording of the promo from a VHS tape he had found and uploaded it to Twitter. Lep's World Run. Throughout 2014, a company named Nerdbyte was developing the fourth title of their game franchise called Lep's World Run. On November 18th, 2014, a trailer was released showcasing the gameplay, with the game eventually being released for iOS on the App Store. While other games in the Lep's World franchise were platformer titles that played very similar to Super Mario Bros., Lep's World Run was different, in that it functioned more like an auto-runner game. At some point after the release of Lep's World Run, copyright claims were made by DevSister, the developers of a similar product called Cookie Run. Lep's World Run ended up being pulled from the App Store, and all the video footage of the game was removed from YouTube. Apparently, Nerdbyte received a lot of backlash in online threads and forums regarding the title. Despite its disappearance, the game was eventually found on May 20th, 2023, by a user named Blue Jay Dude Productions, who extracted the IPA file of the game and uploaded it to archive.org. Rayman Garden. The Rayman series of video games has been developed by Ubisoft since the year 1995, though an unusual puzzle game spin-off was created in the year 2002. Rayman Garden was developed by Gameloft and was only available on two very specific Mitsubishi phone models. Due to this, the game fell into obscurity and very little was known about it. Footage of Rayman Garden surfaced in 2018 and 2019, though the game file itself was not provided until May 20th of 2023. While the game has been dumped in full, as of right now, the ROM itself is unplayable. Milkcan.com promotional interviews. Due to its catchy title, you may have heard of the game Rap with a Rapper, which was released on the PlayStation in 1996. But did you know that there was a follow-up title called Jammer Lammy, developed by the same company? Jammer Lammy featured a fictional band called Milkcan, who were marketing their new album called Make It Sweet. There was even a promotional website, Milkcan.com, that featured short versions of the interviews of the three band members, Catty Cat, Lammy, and Masan. Despite the extremely thorough archives of the website dating back to the year 2000, the interviews were once lost. On May 11th, 2022, Rodney Allen Greenblatt, the graphic artist who made the visual style of Rap with a Rapper and Jammy Lammy, uploaded the Catty Cat, Masan, and Lammy short interviews onto his YouTube channel, and acknowledged their lost status on Twitter. A little over a year later, on May 23rd, 2023, Eric Yockey, founder of the Unit E Technologies, discovered a CD-ROM of the arcade version of the game Jammer Lammy Now, which not only presented all three of the full interviews, but also featured over 15 minutes of other video content from the game, most of which was lost media since 1999. Eric Yockey ripped and upscaled the content from the CD-ROM and shared it on his YouTube channel, Eric Yockey. Be Safe with the Tweenies, Knives. Be Safe with the Tweenies was a series of short episodes aimed at children between the ages of 0 and 8. The series focused on safety in various scenarios, and the episodes aired alongside the show CBeebies between the years 2002 and 2009 on BBC. Similar to Sesame Street, CBeebies was a children's show that used a combination of puppets, animation, and a range of different hosts to teach young children a wide variety of skills, such as letters, numbers, shapes, colors, emotions, and so on. While most of the episodes of Be Safe with the Tweenies are available on YouTube, one episode in particular had been considered lost media. The episode Knives appears to only have aired once according to the BBC Programming Index, on September 26, 2005. According to Milo Jennings, who rediscovered and archived the episodes, the Knives episode was banned by BBC for its depiction of the usage of knives. The episode had been missing until May 26, 2023, when it was uploaded to YouTube by a user named Galaxy Vault 2, with a short note in the description. I know I said I wouldn't upload this, but after a ton of guilt and thoughts, this is lost media that deserves to be preserved. Amulet. Based on the novel by Vladimir Drozd called The Lone Wolf, Amulet is a 1991 supernatural horror film and a rare example of horror in the history of Ukrainian cinema. The film's story revolves around two brothers who leave rural Polsia to seek a better life in Kiev. When one of the brothers dies, The other attempts to take over his work, and slowly begins to lose his humanity, ultimately turning into an undead monster. There were a number of times when the film's production stopped, and production companies changed. When the film was finally completed, it was screened in several film clubs and in a special broadcast on UTI/First National Channel of Ukrainian Television, but never saw a theatrical release. The last known screening of Amulet was on October 5th, 2022. Nearly a year later, the film was found by the From Outer Space group in association with the Russian Lost Media Wiki Discord server, and it was uploaded to vk.com. PGA Tour Golf 2 Heartbeat Catalyst version. PGA Tour Golf 2 is a golf video game developed by Polygon Games and released on the Sega Genesis in 1992. It was the first series of the long-running PGA Tour series. PGA Tour Golf 2 launched to critical and commercial success, so much so that it was one of the few titles considered for the Heartbeat Catalyst, a fitness sensor hardware released by the Heartbeat Corporation. By using the Catalyst, players could receive in-game feedback on their heart rate, motion, skin salinity levels, and more. The Catalyst was released exclusively in the United States on November 24, 1993, as a Sega Genesis add-on, and only 4 games were compatible with the system, making these games some of the rarest pieces of Sega Genesis history. Only 1,000 units of the Catalyst were produced. Unfortunately, the system saw poor sales, and the Heartbeat Corporation encountered difficulties in marketing and selling the device. Less than 1 year after its release, the company canceled production of any remaining hardware and software projects, and transferred its tangible assets to a sister corporation, which ultimately dissolved on September 8, 1997. With the disappearance of the Heartbeat Catalyst, the Catalyst version of PGA Tour Golf 2 was considered extremely low in supply, and one of the single rarest commercially available Sega Genesis games in existence. During a Portland Retro Gaming Expo in the mid-2010s, a private collector and YouTuber Video Game Experiment collaborated with YouTuber Vidya Gamer to produce a video revealing the key differences between the base game and the Catalyst version. At the expo, the game was evaluated by a panel of experts who valued it between $2,000 and $4,000 US. After meeting with video game preservationist Frank Cifaldi, a ROM dump of the game was conducted and tested on an EverDrive. However, this ROM dump did not see a public release. It wasn't until May 30th, 2023, that a ROM dump of an older version of the game was uploaded to archive.org by user Isaiah MV, after they had obtained a version from a Video Game History Foundation user. An identical version of the game was then dumped by the Hidden Palace on June 19, 2023, after a prototype owner of the game, Brian Nocenti, shared and contributed it to the Hidden Palace. Roly-Poly's World Tour. The Roly-Poly series of educational CD-ROMs were released exclusively in Japan in the year 1997 by famous digital artist Osamu Sato. The series consists of Roly-Poly's Nana Korobo Yaoki and Roly-Poly's World Tour, and was meant for an early childhood audience. Gameplay was meant to teach the alphabet and history. Physical copies of these games had appeared on online auction sites, albeit rarely. A demo disc of World Tour was even found in a 1998 issue of Mag People magazine. The first entry in the series was found in full back in 2019, though it wasn't until May 31st, 2023 when World Tour was found in full by Reddit user BakuDD, in collaboration with Potato Impact of the Osamu Sato Discord server. Gluco Boy. Nintendo's Game Boy series of portable consoles had a variety of unique peripherals. The Gluco Boy was among these, being a glucose meter for the Game Boy Advance. Being released only in Australia in 2007, the device sold only 70,000 units, and was made available at the end of the GBA's lifespan, which made it incredibly rare. Because of its rarity, the Gluco Boy has only been seen in glimpses, through newspaper articles and documentary footage. It wasn't until May 31st of 2023 when the full Gluco Boy kit, with the retail build of the software itself, was found and preserved by the Video Game History Foundation. Dream on the Run. Dream on the Run is a Canadian crime film directed by John Edwards, which aired on Global TV on March 7, 1977. After failing to find investors, Edwards financed the movie himself, and filmed sporadically between 1973 and 1977. After the initial airing of the film, it was not made public until 2023. The only known extant copy of the film is currently held by the Library and Archives of Canada on videotape, In February 2022, Reddit user Temporary Stope made a post to initiate a search for the film. A different user named Abbasseder discovered that the film was preserved by the LAC and that it was possible to order a copy. Due to confusion concerning the current rights holders, it took over 15 months before the digital copies of the film were finally granted in May of 2023. On June 1st, the film was finally uploaded onto the Internet Archive by Lost Media Wiki user QuickFox2013, who acquired a copy of the movie after gaining permission from the copyright holder. Star and the Forces of Evil. Star vs. the Forces of Evil is a Disney Channel cartoon that ran from 2015 to 2019. 4 years prior, in 2011, series creator Darren Nefsey created a test pilot called Star and the Forces of Evil. It was shown to Disney and featured various plot and design differences. The pilot was never shown publicly beyond this, besides a couple of clips. It wasn't until June 2nd of this year that Star and the Forces of Evil surfaced in the most unexpected of ways, via a comment on the Lost Media Wiki. The 13-minute pilot had initially surfaced on 4chan via a Catbox link, but went unnoticed until this comment by a user named Elliot Torria. Microforce. Microforce was a short 3D anime film shown at OG Fantasyland, an amusement park that existed in Tomono Okayama Prefecture from 1989 to 1995. Together with Cherrytown Monogatari, the film was produced by Toei Animation to commemorate the opening of the park. After the initial airing at the park's Poppy Cinema Theater, the film had been lost, and only hints of its existence remained, such as a key visual image from a 1989 Toei Animation brochure. It wasn't until June 9th, 2023, when YouTube user Asakusa Taro uploaded a copy of the film that they digitized from a videotape that belonged to their grandfather, finally making the film available. Social Security System Construction Worker. The Philippine Social Security System, a state-run social insurance program, ran a public service announcement in 1998 related to accident insurance on RPM 9 and IBC 13. The PSA shows a construction worker discussing SSS with their boss. The worker takes off their hat during the conversation, but an accident occurs where another worker drops a sledgehammer. Just as the sledgehammer is about to hit them, the screen fades to black and displays messages related to employers' obligations to comply with SSS laws. The PSA was aired again in 2004 and was considered lost media after its final airing. In 2021, a user attempted to upload the PSA to YouTube, but was subsequently terminated for multiple third-party claims of copyright infringement. However, on June 11th of this year, Patrick Roque found a copy of the PSA and uploaded it to the comment section of a Facebook post, finally rendering it found. Hymen o Hymeni. Hymen o Hymeni, or Royal Wedding, is a painting by Filipino painter Juan Luna. Juan Luna was a known painter, sculptor, and political activist of the Philippine Revolution during the late 19th century. He is also considered one of the first recognized Philippine artists. His painting of the Roman wedding was feared to have been destroyed during the revolution. Due to Luna's brilliance and the air of mystery surrounding the piece, it has been hailed by many art collectors as the, quote, holy grail of Philippine art. The last time the painting had been shown in public was when it won bronze at the 1889 Paris World's Fair, the same groundbreaking event that revealed the Eiffel Tower to the world. It wasn't until Jaime Ponce de Leon of Leon Gallery took it upon himself to chase leads around Europe for a brief period of over 10 years that the piece would finally be found in 2014. Storing it in a crate, De Leon waited for the perfect moment to reintroduce the painting to the world. In 2022, due to, quote, extraordinary circumstances, De Leon agreed to loan the painting to the Ayala Museum. On June 12, 2023, to commemorate the 125th anniversary of Philippine independence, the Splendor Juan Luna Painted as Hero exhibit would finally open to the public with free admission, with Hymen no Hymeni as the centerpiece. Super Y Pilot. Super Y is a computer animated television show that aired from 2007 to 2016 on PBS Kids. The show was created by Angela Santomero, who also created Blue's Clues. Super Y is about a kid who lives in Storybrooke Village with his friends. Each episode presents a super big problem, a super big question, or a super big mystery that the kids have to solve. They then discuss the situation at the book club, and fly into a book of a famous story in order to use their literacy skills to overcome obstacles. By overcoming these obstacles, they are rewarded with super letters, which form the solution to the scenario they are facing. While the show ultimately aired as a CGI production, the initial pilot episode that was pitched to Nick Jr. in 1999 was actually made using stop-motion animation. Allegedly, the pilot was initially greenlit by Nick Jr., but was eventually cancelled in favor of another show called Oswald. On June 12, 2023, YouTubers The Old Washington Resident and Melody were able to find and release a copy of the full pilot after contacting the Annecy Film Festival, where the pilot won an award for educational, scientific, or industrial film in 2000. The Black Adder. Black Adder is a series of British period sitcoms that aired on BBC One from 1983 to 1989. Each series is set in a different period of British history, beginning in 1485 and ending in 1917. The first series was written by Richard Curtis and Rowan Atkinson, while subsequent series were written by Curtis and Ben Elton. The show is critically acclaimed and often ranked as one of the best British sitcoms of all time. Though the show initially aired in 1983, the pilot episode, titled The Black Adder, was produced in 1982 and never aired on British TV until 2023, when the TV channel Gold, a channel that primarily airs classic British sitcoms, broadcasted the episode as part of its celebration of the show's 40th anniversary. Turn On. And possibly the weirdest entry on our list, Turn On is an experimental sketch comedy series that premiered on February 5th, 1969 on ABC. The show is the first and only American TV series to ever be cancelled not just after, but during the airing of its first episode. By the time it reached the Central Time Zone, outrage by affiliate stations had already caused the show to be pulled off the network and buried without a trace. Although modern critiques of the show are somewhat mixed, it remains consensus that airing such a show during primetime was a mistake. With its combination of fast edits, split screens, random messages, and credits across the screen under the avant-garde soundtrack, the show was unnerving and confusing, leaving viewers uncomfortable. Despite being lost over the years, on June 17, 2023, YouTube user PhilRock uploaded both completed episodes in full. A Little Inappropriate pilot. In January 2007, HBO announced the development of a show called A Little Inappropriate by Larry Charles, starring musician Kanye West. The project was inspired by Kanye's actual life experiences, with episodes focusing on days in the busy life of the star. In 2008, the project was shelved indefinitely, with the only footage being from a pilot episode that saw an unofficial screening in 2013. The pilot episode is commonly described as being similar to Curb Your Enthusiasm, with Kanye West referring to himself as, quote, the Black Larry David. In an interview with Larry Charles from September 2008, Charles stated that he believed the project had been shelved for being, quote, too hardcore for HBO. There were speculations that other factors may have caused the cancellation, such as shifting management at HBO and an alleged dissatisfaction from HBO, with claims that there wasn't enough Kanye West in it. Despite the cancellation, on June 18, 2023, Reddit user Sam Vision announced on r/GoodAssSub that they found the pilot to the episode on Larry Charles' Vimeo. The pilot was accidentally made public and has since been mirrored onto other websites, such as YouTube. Bubble Guppies pilot. Bubble Guppies is an animated series on Nick Jr., created by Robert Skull and Johnny Belts, and produced by WildBrain Entertainment. The show premiered around 2011 and became a success, with episodes still being produced to this day. Despite the achievement, the pilot episode that was first pitched to Nickelodeon and greenlit was lost for many years and had fallen into obscurity. Prior to June 2023, only one small clip, some 2D images, and a screenshot along with concept art images were all that had resurfaced. It wasn't until June 20th, 2023, that an anonymous user named Doria shared a pitch document by the original creators of the series, as well as a Catbox link containing the full unaired pilot. It remains unknown how this user obtained this content. The second arrangement. Back in 1979, when the band Steely Dan was working on their album Groucho, there was a particular composition that had been a favorite of Gary Katz, the producer, and engineer Roger Nichols. The composition, titled The Second Arrangement, was intended to be included in the album. However, in late 1979, after weeks of working on one of the records for the track, approximately 75% of the song was accidentally erased by a junior engineer, who Katz had asked to ready the track for listening. When lead singer Donald Fagen heard the news, it is said that he simply walked out of the studio without saying a word. Despite attempts to re-record the song, the production was ultimately dropped due to takes not being satisfactory to the core band members and co-founder Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, who were both well-known perfectionists. On August 24th, 2020, the official Roger Nichols account on Facebook posted and revealed that they had found an untouched tape from their mother's possession of the infamous The Second Arrangement tape before it got accidentally erased. In addition to this, a digital audio tape was also discovered that contained a cleaner recording of the same mix, but also featured vocals from Fagen that are missing from the audio cassette version. Digitization of the recording was finalized in March of 2023, and 3 months later, on June 24th, the second arrangement finally became available digitally via a Substack blog newsletter called The Expanding Dan. It's also said that the original cassette tape recording will soon be sold at an auction. Detour Pilot. Detour is a 2015 TV pilot episode created by Steve Franks, the creator of Psych. Loosely based on the frontman of the rock band Weezer, the show aimed to revolve around his time taking a break from the band in order to return to college. Although the pilot episode had been ordered by Fox and filming had even been completed, it was never aired or released. While the script was readily available online, it wasn't until June 25th, 2023, that YouTuber Media Garage acquired a DVD of the pilot from Fox and shared the full episode on YouTube. Zap, the Magical Computer. Zap, the Magical Computer is a 3D animated children's educational film created in 1997. Although the film was released directly to VHS, due to several in-film references, it is suspected that it likely originally served as a pilot pitch for a television series. Produced by Tons Entertainment and created by Anthony Amato and John T. Quinn III, the film revolves around Zap, a magical talking computer from planet Xena. In the film, Zap gains powers when he learns, and his mentor and fellow machine teacher go on a quest to find out who stole all of the number 8s on Earth. Over the years, remnants of the film had been uploaded as edited clips by Anthony Amato, with superimposed text introductions explaining the origins of the film or Amato's thoughts in the clip. Before June 2023, the closest complete sample of the film was a video compilation of these clips, edited together without the text introductions by YouTuber Grapefruit. However, on June 27, 2023, Internet Archive and Lost Media Wiki Discord user Remiculous obtained a VHS copy of the film and transferred it to DVD. The film was then digitized and uploaded to the archive, as well as YouTube, and is now available for anyone to watch in full. Don Quixote. In 1999, Orion Walker and Richard Zangrande Galbert created an indie comedy film called Don Quixote. Other than the trailer and an IMDb review, little is known about the movie. According to the review, the film was about a, quote, young struggling artist who doesn't realize they have any talents. The film reportedly never saw an official release due to lack of a distributor. However, the soundtrack for the film did see a release and was moderately successful. Robert Schneider, who composed much of the music, released one of the movie's songs titled Boats on the Water as an extra on his album Expo in 2006. On November 22nd, 2021, it was confirmed that the film was being withheld from release because the manager of the band Guided by Voices had not approved the release, despite the band's performing songs for the film. However, on June 29th of this year, a watermark screener version of the film was uploaded to the UGA Special Collections website by Robert Schneider, who owned a copy. Kagiri Naki Rakun. Hiroshi Harada is infamous within the anime community for his grotesque and macabre works, among the most well-known being Midori, a Euroguro film with an overabundance of disturbing themes. The far more obscure Kagiri Naki Rakun is a film made while Harada was still a student in high school. Known in English as Limitless Paradise, the film was uploaded in full by Kiryukum, Harada's own production company. This marked the first time in 35 years that Limitless Paradise was presented to the public. Full House Russian adaptation. Full House originally ran from 1987 to 1995. It was over a decade following the finale, in 2009, that an adaptation of Full House was made for Russian audiences. This was due to the Russian network STS receiving the license directly from Warner Brothers. Only airing for 2 seasons between January and December of 2009, 10 episodes of the series were available on YouTube, courtesy of users Misha Polnikov and Christiana June. It was eventually through subsequent uploads to the Russian video platform VK that the remainder of the series was found. Not the Same. Not the Same is an unreleased song by Kanye West, an artist with a plethora of lost and unreleased content. Seriously, the Kanye West lost media rabbit hole is madness. There's even a community dedicated to just leaking his stuff. Anyways, Not the Same, also known as Black Bruce Wayne, apparently, featured Kanye rapping about his wealth. Part of the song was leaked back in 2014, but its authenticity was questioned when Kanye's producer Mike Dean responded with, "You think we would make something so bad production-wise? Get real." The leak was written off as a fake. But in 2023, the full song was unearthed by the Yeezy Cord Discord server. Game of Death. Game of Death is a martial arts film, directed, written, produced by, and starring Bruce Lee. It would be one of his last projects before his death in 1973. Afterwards, the film was released in 1978. Supposedly, Lee shot over 100 minutes of footage, much of which was never used. This is because the film's plot was entirely rewritten, and stand-in actors were used for the new scenes. There's even a part where Bruce Lee's character needs face surgery, which is there just to explain why he suddenly looks different. As you might have guessed, people began to wonder what the original film would have looked like. While we never quite got that, the distribution company Arrow Video released a documentary called The Final Game of Death, which includes all 2 hours of Lee's original footage. Hollywood Squares It Just Ain't Right. Hollywood Squares is a long-running game show in which contestants must compete with each other in a game of tic-tac-toe. It's a bit weird, but basically, each square is occupied by a celebrity guest. The contestant would select the square they wanted to mark. The celebrity in that square would get asked a question. The celebrity would then answer that question. Then the contestant can decide whether or not they agree with the celebrity's answer, and if they get it right, they can mark their square. So yeah, it's tic-tac-toe with some extra steps. Now in 2004, Hollywood Squares aired special episodes during their contest called It Just Ain't Right. These episodes had minor differences, and viewers at home were tasked with spotting them. These episodes were lost for years, until 2023, when they were all made available on Pluto TV.
Andrea.
Let's go, Baba Booey, please.
Baba Booey from the Howard Stern Show, appearing at Valley Total Fitness, Saddlebrook, New Jersey, Saturday.
The Stepford Wives Preview Cut. The Stepford Wives is a really strange film about a family moving to the fictional suburb of Stepford, a community where things are a little too perfect. Like, apparently there's no crime and all the women dress perfectly and never complain. I won't spoil it, but there's definitely something spooky going on here. The film received generally mixed reviews and bombed at the box office, and with most movies, it had its fair share of bootleg recordings circulating. However, one of these recordings was special, as it wasn't a bootleg of the film's theatrical run, but instead a bootleg of one of the film's test screenings. The bootleg was released by the piracy group TUN on the film's official release date, but when a higher quality cam rip of the film's final cut was uploaded, the bootlegged preview cuts fell into obscurity. Well, that is until July 2022, when users ToastWoomy and Rouster64 found both parts of the preview cuts. It remained private on their Discord until August 1st, 2023, when Lost Media Wiki user YoshiKiller2s was given permission to release it by one of the users involved. A very aggressive vegetable. Yep, this is one of those obscure Nickelodeon things that became lost to time. A Very Aggressive Vegetable is a series of shorts about, as you might have guessed, angry vegetables who lash out at children for not liking them. The miniseries lasted for only 6 episodes. All of them were available on Nick.com, but apparently, a glitch in their website prevented the episodes from being played. More so, the web pages, of course, no longer exist. The series was slowly being recovered by different users throughout the years, and as of 2023, the entire series is fully found. TV Burp. TV Burp is an Australian TV show featuring comedian Ed Cavalier. He commentates and pokes fun at clips from other Australian shows. Overall, it's a pretty cheeky series that unfortunately didn't do well with audiences. As a result, the show was cancelled after a mere 8 episodes. Due to its short lifespan, TV Burp was incredibly rare to come by. Only 1 episode was available online, as well as some promo clips. However, on August 5th, the entire series was uploaded to the torrent site The Empire by user XeSod. The Lorax, leaked unfinished trailer. So this is an odd one. Back in 2021, a tweet was posted claiming that an unfinished version of the trailer to the Lorax film was leaked on some Chinese website. It was later taken down before the real trailer premiered online, with this screenshot being its only surviving remnant. A search began on the Lost Media Wiki forums, and a few more articles about the leaked trailer were found. The search came to an end in August of this year, when a Discord user named Leandro found a re-upload of the trailer on a Russian website. Captain N, How's Bayou? Captain N the Game Master is an interesting cartoon that features very early portrayals of beloved video game characters, like Mega Man and Simon from Castlevania. The show ran from 1989 to 1991 for a total of 3 seasons. How's Bayou is the second episode of Season 1, and is known to feature many obvious animation errors. The original version, with all the errors, remains the version that is included on home video release. However, a fixed second version of this episode was produced and released, correcting animation errors and even replacing voice lines and background music. The second version was shown in reruns, but became lost once Captain N ceased airing. On August 9th, the YouTube channel RetroCCN uploaded the full second version of the episode, recovered from a recording of a broadcast from August 11th, 1990. Hate Hurts You. Hate Hurts You was a lost PSA made by the Jewish Chautauqua Society in 1974. Apparently the PSA terrified many children in the 70s, which caused it to be pulled off the air and replaced with a shortened version. According to various descriptions, the original ad featured a man walking towards the viewer, becoming progressively angrier. Then, in a sinister voice, he proclaims, "Hate is an acid that corrodes, a poison that erodes your body, mind, and soul. So when you hate, who do you hurt the most? Hate hurts you." Finally, the ad ends with the man's head exploding, and a voiceover that yells, "Hate hurts you." Early this year, a user on Reddit named Delchi claimed to have located a copy of the lost PSA on a 16mm film reel. While many were excited, no updates were given for several months, until August 10th of this year, when OP was able to convert the film reel and share the lost PSA online. King of Van News pilot. King of Van News was an Americanized version of a British show called Only Fools and Horses. I've never seen Only Fools and Horses, but the show was pretty heavily acclaimed, often cited as one of Britain's most popular sitcoms. So it made sense for an adaptation to be made overseas in the States, thus the creation of King of Van News. Unfortunately, due to some production issues, the pilot never saw the light of day and was scrapped altogether. It finally reappeared this year on the YouTube channel Vincent Dawn Pilot Showcase. Robot Wars The Kickoff. Robot Wars The Kickoff was a special presentation meant to promote the upcoming show Dutch Robot Wars Series 1, which itself was an adaptation of the original Robot Wars. It featured interviews with the show's production staff and combatants, and even showed off some of the robots. After the show aired, the special meant to promote its premiere served no purpose, and thus Robot Wars The Kickoff ceased airing and became lost. Or so it's speculated. What we do know is that on August 12th, the special was re-uploaded by YouTube user Rick Van Linden. Bradshaw vs. Christian. Bradshaw vs. Christian was an unaired WWF wrestling match from 2001. It featured the wrestler Bradshaw defending his European Championship title against Christian, ultimately losing the match. Despite a new champion being named, the match never aired on the November 2001 edition of SmackDown. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, this was due to time constraints. Others have speculated that the quality of the match was low, leading to its removal. Whatever the reason, the match was posted this year by WWE themselves on Facebook. Toonheads, a night of independent animation. Toonheads was a Cartoon Network series that aired from 1992 to 2003, and served as a compendium for cartoons. The series often featured vintage short collections from renowned animators, such as Chuck Jones and Tex Avery. In 1996, Toonheads aired a unique episode titled A Night of Independent Animation. The special wasn't commonly known, and barely documented online, with online users attempting to compile the complete list of shorts shown within the episode. It was on August 22nd that Ogden Blake Studios designer Jeremy Jusey uploaded the full episode to Vimeo. This was upon talking to Jericho Dvorak, who has been involved in recovering Toonheads as a series online. Dvorak had provided Jusey with the full recorded broadcast, complete with original commercials. Get Your Weight Off of Me. Michael Jackson produced a number of songs that ultimately went unreleased, the most recent of these discoveries being Get Your Weight Off of Me, a track initially intended to be included in the 1997 album Invincible. The song has been common knowledge among fans since 2010, as a short clip has been leaked online. Despite this, there was no general consensus on if the clip was genuine or fake. All that was known was that Get Your Weight Off of Me did exist in some capacity. In 2018, a CD with the song was held at auction, but did not sell, and on August 22nd, the song was unexpectedly leaked by an online user known as ADoMax. This version of the song was edited, and sounded different from the 2010 snippet, removing the intro entirely and speeding up sections of the song. Various fans have been working to restore the found song to match the version leaked in 2010, as the original leak is believed to be the original pre-2004 version. The song is officially marked found nonetheless. Grand. Of all the obscure shows on this list that were lost to time, none are as confounding as Grand. It aired on ABC in the 1990s, and was about 3 families living in the fictional town of Grand, Pennsylvania. Despite airing for 2 seasons, none of its 26 episodes ever reappeared online, on home media release, or on any streaming service. On top of that, its series finale never aired for unknown reasons. Fast forward to late 2022, when a Reddit post about Grand was made onto r/lost media. A user named Getty Stallone provided an archive.org link to the first season of the series. They claimed that both seasons were on a private torrent tracker named TV Vault. Despite this, it was not made available to the public until it was uploaded this year on the Grand 1990 NBC sitcom YouTube channel. Greatest ever screen chases. Who doesn't love a good action-packed, fast-paced chase scene? This hour-and-a-half special counted down their top 30 chase scenes from movies, such as The Matrix, The Temple of Doom, and Bad Boys 2, to real life, like the actual O.J. Simpson police chase of 1994. It only aired a handful of times in the mid-2000s, before strangely disappearing. It never found its way onto any home media release or streaming service, which is a shame because I quite enjoy countdowns. The search for the greatest ever screen chases began on Reddit, when users began discussing the lost special. The only clip available was 3 minutes long and uploaded by a YouTube channel named Tarlanx. This user had not uploaded in 11 years, so they were likely to be inactive. Well, a Reddit user named Tony Gunn Kington decided to reach out anyways, and actually got a response. Tarlanx still had a copy of the full special, and in August of this year, it was posted online. Ipalaga Silver Special. Ipalaga is a Philippines variety show, featuring comedic sketches, games, contests, and more. It's been airing since its premiere in 1979 to this day, making it the longest running show in the Philippines. In 2004, an event was aired to commemorate its 25th anniversary, called Ipalaga Silver Special. Even with its widespread acclaim and high ratings, the special became lost media as the show went on. It was re-aired a handful of times, but edited in some way or only shown in parts. The full broadcast became available when the show themselves released it on DVD, and in 2023, the Silver Special was viewable online. Cherry Town Monogatari. Cherry Town Monogatari, or Cherry Town Story, was a 1989 animated short film produced exclusively for OG Fantasyland, a small amusement park formerly located in Okayama Prefecture, Japan, until 1995. The movie was only available during scheduled showings within this specific park. Despite the obscurity, it was produced by the renowned Toei Animation and featured many famous voice actors of the era. Cherry Town Story was so mysterious that the plot itself wasn't even publicly known, and online users often referred to it as a phantom film in Japan. The only known information comes from the staff credits and a single image found on a pamphlet for the amusement park. Recovery of this animated short appeared unlikely, but on August 25th, the full 14-minute short was uploaded to YouTube by a user named Asakusa Taro's Nostalgic Entertainment channel. The user found the film on a VHS tape inherited from their grandfather. Mothman. Created by the same guy who made Cat Scratch and Earthworm Jim, Mothman was an unreleased horror film made in the late 90s and early 2000s. The project went through many production issues, delays, and budget cuts, ultimately resulting in the film being stuck in development hell. The last update was from 2003, when a company called Bad Karma Productions announced that they were still editing the movie, but obviously it was never released. The plot would have centered on a struggling animator named Ellis Gladson, who encounters the mystical Mothman, a tall bird-like creature who hadn't been seen in 30 years. He tries to tell others about his sighting, but nobody believes him. So it's up to Gladson to prove the Mothman's existence, while also being chased by some men in black. In 2023, fellow Lost Media YouTuber Mr. Bones spoke of the film on his YouTube channel. Shortly afterward, an anonymous viewer who claimed to have worked on the film sent Mr. Bones a copy, which was later uploaded online. New Pop Sunday. New Pop Sunday was a 1999 album by the band Sponge, featuring a more alternate rock style when compared to their first two albums. For a while, fans have known about some song demos that either changed or didn't make the final cut of the album. Some fans went so far as to ask band members on Facebook if they could release the demos, but it wouldn't be until this year when they were uploaded to Burke's YouTube channel. The Carol Lawrence Show pilot. So there's very little information about this pilot at all. Its IMDb page is pretty empty, and it isn't even mentioned on Carol Lawrence's Wikipedia page. In fact, the Lost Media Wiki is the only source that has a decent write-up. So according to them, this was meant to be a talk show starring actress Carol Lawrence and her then husband Robert Gowlett. Unfortunately, the show was not picked up by any network, and the pilot has been shelved ever since. It only resurfaced thanks to a viewer donation to the Oddity Archive YouTube channel.
Yes, you. I prefer.
Mario Victim Number 1. Mario Victim Number 1 is an infamous image from the Mario creepypasta, in which a player encounters a creepy ROM hack of the classic 90s game Super Mario World. The image is of low pixelated quality and features a person's screaming face, as if they're in some pain. The story describes the face as belonging to a murder victim. Their eyes were removed, and the body was covered in unidentified hand marks. Typical creepypasta spooks. Years after the story's popularity, a search began for the origins of this mysterious image. On the creepypasta subreddit, a user recalled the original image being of a band member, which was edited and warped using the GIMP photo editing software. A 4chan user corroborated the statement, believing it was simply, quote, a guy attempting to advertise his band. This was easily the most popular theory, and it eventually became true on September 1st, when the original image was found by a Discord user named God. For a full breakdown of the search, check out this video by Midnight Crick, who spearheaded the search. Dispatches, Toff at the Top. Toff at the Top was an episode from the British investigative series Dispatch from 2007. The episode focused on the political career of David Cameron and his rise to the head of the British Conservative Party. Funny enough, this episode was considered found in 2022 when it was uploaded to the YouTube channel Gary Smith. The account closed, however, and no one apparently bothered to download the episode. It was found, again, by Lost Media Wiki user Edward_Howard97. He found the episode through a deleted tweet and posted it to the Internet Archive. Blueprints. What may be among the best known pieces of Lost Media from a children's show, Blueprints is the 1994 pilot of the Nick Jr. show Blue's Clues. Before its release in 1996, the show saw a lengthy development period, changing various show assets before ultimately deciding on a partially live-action format. The pilot was filmed, roughly, between 1994 and 1995, though the exact time frame remains unknown. The pilot never aired on Nickelodeon, having only been shown to a test audience of preschoolers. Blueprints fell into obscurity following this, until footage was featured in a 10th anniversary special in 2006. Only behind-the-scenes photos and screenshots surfaced in the years following. Fast forward to 2021, when more clips were released to the official Nick Jr. Twitter account in a post regarding the pilot. It was on September 9th that the pilot surfaced unexpectedly through an online leak. Whoever was responsible for obtaining and initially uploading Blueprints remains unknown. Songs from Cosmic Cafe. From 2006 to 2012, NBC hosted a children's television block known as Cubo. A variety of programs were aired on the block, including VeggieTales and one of its spin-offs, 3-2-1 Penguins. The latter quickly became the most popular Cubo program, and new episodes were made for the show in 2006 for this reason. Among this new content was the episode Songs from Cosmic Cafe. Most of the series episodes saw an official release. However, this specific one did not. With the last time this episode aired in the United States being in 2009, another rebroadcast would not occur until 2019, on a Middle Eastern TV station. The original English language version of the episode would not be recovered until September 10th, when Lost Memories Media uploaded the entire episode to YouTube. Sacks of People. Performed by the Minnesota grunge band Apathy, this album is controversial due to a series of incidents involving one of its musicians. Finished in 2001, Sacks of People served as the band's first released album and contained 12 tracks. Apathy would frequently perform locally during the early 2000s, selling Sacks of People during events and local record stores. The album was funded by the group themselves, and reportedly performed so poorly that the record stores eventually gave the albums away for free, making the release quite rare. In 2002, Apathy guitarist Luke Helder would commence a series of bombings throughout the United States, reportedly creating pipe bombs and placing them in precise locations in order to create a smiley face pattern when a map of the attacks was shown. For this reason, Helder is better known as the Smiley Face Bomber. On September 10th, a YouTuber named Scorch uploaded the full album, receiving Sacks of People from a contact who happened to have the files on their hard drive. VeggieTales NBC version. And now for something completely different. VeggieTales is a popular children's television show that focuses on the teachings of Christianity. Despite the religious themes, it grew significantly in popularity compared to other religious programming of the era. For that reason, NBC had taken interest in the show, and aired it with various edits done to reduce the avocation of any religious point of view. The edits range from small to rather significant, depending on the subject matter of each episode. This NBC version was aired in the Cubo programming block in 2006. Phil Vischer, the series creator, was reportedly unaware of the religious restrictions NBC had, and was not fond of this abridged version of the show. 4 episodes of the NBC cut were released to IMDb TV in 2020 by Big Idea Entertainment. A combined effort of various YouTube and Dailymotion users, most notably VeggieTales VHS and Yumi Fujiwara, is what led to the full recovery. The final missing episode was recovered on September 10th, and a full playlist of the series is available on archive.org. Escape from Team Fortress 2. Escape from Team Fortress 2 was a planned animated series produced by Happy Guillotine Studios and Machinima, to be released in 2014. Despite Machinima funding all episodes of the project, only 1 episode was created before funding ran out. All 8 episodes were written and voiced, but never completed. In 2016, Happy Guillotine Studios was contacted by Lost Media Wiki contributor F. Feathers, and it was revealed that they planned to crowdfund the remaining 7 episodes. This never came to fruition, and only the pilot episode was completed, and remained unreleased. On September 12th, Happy Guillotine Studios themselves uploaded the sole completed episode to their official YouTube channel. They also promised that the storyboards and audio from 7 to 10 uncompleted episodes would be released as well. Terebi Denwa Super Mario World. Terebi Denwa Super Mario World, directly translating to TV Phone Super Mario World, is an obscure Japan-only arcade game that featured gameplay through the use of a phone attached to the cabinet itself, which resembled a payphone. The game featured simple puzzles with audio being heard through the phone itself. Being produced by band Presto in 1992, the Terebi Denwa fell into obscurity and lacked any preservation. This was until September 14th, when Twitter user PhilBennett3D announced that the full ROM was dumped and added to the ROM site MAME. Pokemon 2000 Adventure. Pokemon the Movie 2000 was the second Pokemon movie released. To promote the North American release, Warner Bros. Commissioned Cyberworld Entertainment Corporation to create an online tie-in game for the movie's official webpage. The game was extremely ambitious for its time, featuring 2.5D graphics and mechanics similar to the mainline RPG games. Despite how impressive the game was, it didn't sit well with Nintendo. It was ordered to be taken down only 4 weeks following the launch. The game was expected to be simple, though the use of 3D visuals, closely following the release of Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Stadium, made it problematic. While the game did remain online for a couple of years, the link leading to the game itself was removed from any and all official web pages. Various people reached out to Cyberworld programmer Neil Marshall. It wasn't until an interview between Cody Burns, Neil Marshall, and developer Eddie Burns that a copy of the full game was made available once again, found on a CD owned by Burns and provided by Digino Gaming. Pokemon Garden archivist Rufus 10 and their friend Doomtae succeeded in restoring the assets, and the Pokemon 2000 adventure was uploaded to the Internet Archive on September 17th. Pickles. Occasionally, lost media is discovered that wasn't even known to exist in the first place. In this instance, a prototype game, known simply as Pickles, was recently uncovered. Prior to this discovery, Pickles had only been mentioned one recorded time on the internet back in 2009. So what does the game itself entail? Surprisingly, not Pickles, and is instead a platformer involving monkeys on unicycles. On August 30th, a content creator known as Cake Hoarder uploaded a video of the acquired game following the purchase of a GameCube NR development system that contained a disc with Pickles on it. The game was revealed to be produced by Santa Cruz Games, of which the seller's father was the developer for. Pickles had the potential to become the company's sole IP, but was instead cancelled. On September 18th, the full ROM was subsequently dumped to Hidden Palace with the help of Hard4 Games. Jammer Lemmy Now. Jammer Lemmy is a spin-off of the PlayStation rhythm game series Parappa the Rapper. It was developed by Nana Onsha, however an arcade version was co-produced by Namco that same year, titled Jammer Lemmy Now. The game itself remained mostly the same, though it featured physical guitar controllers and an added multiplayer mode, featuring Parappa the Rapper. The arcade variant itself became the topic of conversation among arcade collectors' forums, due to its rarity. Many noted that the cabinet disappeared from arcades in Japan at some point after 2003. Photos and clips of the game had surfaced here and there in the years since, though it wouldn't be until this year that a physical cabinet itself was actually located. The owner of the cabinet, Reddit user Fire and Irons Place, or better known in the UK as actor Jonathan Ross, began working with Eric Yaki of Unit E Technologies in 2019 to release the full ROM of the game. It was finally on September 19th that the full game was released on the Internet Archive. Disney Game Downloads. From 2005 to 2008, Disney Online hosted a service to purchase and download various computer games based on Disney films. 9 games in total were developed for the sites, 2 of which being exclusive to the United Kingdom. The site went down halfway through 2008, and these exclusive Disney games were lost. The games were individually recovered by various users, with most games being recovered in 2021. The last remaining title, Disney's Minigolf, was uploaded to Mega on September 22, 2023. Mama's Boyfriend. Mama's Boyfriend, sometimes referred to as Mama's Boy, is another one of Kanye's lost songs, initially considered for the album My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Over the course of the record's production, West had reportedly flown an entourage of other artists to his Honolulu studio in order to collaborate on the track. Mama's Boyfriend is in the company of a few other songs and audio assets scrapped from this album. In 2011, following Mama's Boyfriend being scrapped, an unknown user uploaded what they claimed to be the final song. This caused Universal Music, the rights holder of Kanye West's music, to come forward. They claimed that the vocals were authentic, but the instrumentals were of unknown origin. But ultimately, on September 22nd, the full song was leaked on the Yeezy Chord Discord server. Again, Crash vs. Spyro Racing. Intended to be released on the original Xbox, Crash vs. Spyro Racing was a crossover game that would have featured characters from each series. The game itself, developed by Argonaut Games, was not even publicly known until 2021, when it was found within an Xbox press kit recovered by hiddenpalace.org. The date of development is unknown. However, it's believed to have been before 2003, due to the year of the title screen and the later release of Crash Nitro Karts on the Game Boy Advance in that year. On September 25th, YouTuber Modern Vintage Gamer uploaded a video showcasing the game, which was found through a hard drive originally belonging to an Xbox development kit. The preserved game, as well as the entire contents of the hard drive, were uploaded to archive.org. I'm Mad, original theatrical version. In 1994, the theatrical release of the Don Bluth film Thumbelina featured a unique short from the cartoon Animaniacs. This short, titled I'm Mad, did air on TV as well, within the 4th episode of the 2nd season. The theatrical cut, however, featured several changes. These included exclusive title cards and an instrumental version of the Animaniacs theme song. Recovering the full theatrical short would likely require obtaining an original film reel. One did surface in 2014, but went to an unknown buyer. It wasn't until September 25th of this year that one would be discovered again, this time by YouTuber FT Depot, who also uploaded the short in full to YouTube. The upload was removed due to copyright, however was successfully mirrored onto other sites, such as the Internet Archive.
I'm mad, I'm really, really, really mad. You poked me with your elbow in my side. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. You did.
The Complete and Utter History of Britain. This early sketch comedy series focused on reporting iconic moments of British history, as if television existed for thousands of years prior. The show was well received for its parodies of sensationalized televised reports, but was later among the many casualties to BBC's infamous tape wiping. Very much like the lost Doctor Who episodes, the tapes containing the show were wiped and reused for new programming. It was widely believed that this entire show was just lost to time. However, it was later discovered that various cast and crew members had episodes in their own private collections. Nonetheless, a number of episodes remained missing. It was on October 2nd that the entire original series was released to the streaming services BritBox and ITVX. It's unknown how the entire series was unearthed. Out of Jimmy's Head. From 2007 to 2008, Cartoon Network released a sitcom that mixed live-action scenes with animated characters, titled Out of Jimmy's Head. The show itself was based on a film titled Reanimated, which followed the titular character Jimmy, and the animated characters only he is able to see. Both the show and the movie were heavily lambasted, leading to the cancellation of Out of Jimmy's Head after less than a year of airing. Very few home video releases had come about, only offering 3 of the 20 total episodes, and the show was never made available on any streaming services. The first 10 episodes were previously uploaded to Mega by Lost Media Wiki user TimeMime. However, on October 4th, another Lost Media Wiki user provided the remaining 10 episodes from Cartoon Network Germany reruns. Gibby. Gibby was a planned spin-off of the hit Nickelodeon show iCarly. The series would have featured Noah Monk returning as the character Gibby, who works at a middle school cafeteria and befriends 4 students. A pitch pilot was filmed and produced, but for whatever reason, the series wasn't greenlit by Nickelodeon. All that remained of Gibby were some vague descriptions and a single promo image. In the early days of Lost Media, this was one of the more iconic examples of lost television. For years, this show remained shrouded in mystery, until 2019, when some images and 3 pages of the script were shared by a fan-made Instagram account named Dan Warp Shows. The following year, the entire script was found by someone named Cinedocs, who bought it from a user of the iCarly subreddit. The script matched the pages and images shared on Instagram. 2 years later, in 2022, YouTuber Quinton Reviews, the 5-hour iCarly guy, shared low-quality screen grabs of the pilot online. Apparently, one of his subscribers' mom worked on the show. The search finally ended in 2023, when the YouTube channel Media Garage shared the full pilot online. Aliens in Our Food. Aliens in Our Food is an educational PC game developed in 1999 by Education and Youth Interactive Media. Published by the Health Education Authority, the game was intended to educate children on food hygiene and food poisoning prevention. The point-and-click adventure game was intended to be installed onto school computers, but ended up not being well received. The game was only available for a few months prior to the disbandment of the Health Education Authority. Little information is salvageable online regarding the developer and the game itself. In July of this year, Internet Archive user Coop the Koopa discovered the game within the files of a school computer. This user later dumped the full game to the Internet Archive on October 7th. Yo Gabba Gabba Pilots. Airing from 2007 to 2015, Yo Gabba Gabba was a staple of many childhoods. Known for its many celebrity guest appearances, this live-action puppet show was pitched not once, not twice, but 3 separate times. While 2 official pilots were created in 2006, a low-budget test demo was created at some point in the early 2000s. The first pilot and demo were found in 2020 and 2021 respectively, and while the second demo was technically uploaded to YouTube in February 2021, the upload was taken down after only a month and not archived. It was on October 12th that the second pilot was once again uploaded by YouTube user Yo Gabba Guru. It was obtained from Chris Bobin, who had worked on the show's first season. WWF XS. Professional wrestling has presented many different television shows and spin-offs over the years, among the most obscure being a talk show of all things called WWF XS. Airing on TNN, The show presented highlights from past matches and allowed viewers to call in and speak to the wrestlers live on air. While many programs from this time period are streamable through WWE Network, WWF Access remains missing from the catalog. It wasn't until October 12th of this year that the entire series was uploaded to XWT, an MMA and wrestling webpage. Crayon Shin-Chan 3 New on Port. Crayon Shin-Chan is a popular long-running manga and anime created by Yoshito Usui. The series has been running for decades, and has amassed many video game spin-offs over the years, among these being a PC game titled Shin-Chan 3. Shin-Chan 3 ended up being ported to the South Korea exclusive Nuon console, and saw a release between 2000 and 2003. While marketed as a game console, the Nuon was essentially a rebranded DVD player. Only 8 games were developed during the system's lifespan, and while the other 7 were readily available for years, Shin-Chan 3 remained lost. The game saw a limited release, and was widely thought to be in the possession of private collectors, who had no interest in dumping the game. On October 20th, Internet Archive user MC Boys provided the ISO image for the entire game, as well as full scans of the box, disc, and manual. The game is currently unplayable, but efforts in creating a Nuon emulator are currently in the works. Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire? The 2000s saw an abundance of creative reality TV shows, such as Fox's Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire. Women throughout the United States would compete in a beauty competition to win the opportunity to marry an undisclosed millionaire. The special itself performed well, but faced a wave of backlash when the multimillionaire was revealed to not be as wealthy as perceived, leading to an FCC investigation. Due to this controversy, Fox themselves agreed to never re-air Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire. Following the initial broadcast, only clips from news reports and documentaries were accessible. 69 minutes of the special were uploaded to the Internet Archive last year. The full recorded broadcast was uploaded to YouTube by Rivers Kumo Funko Pop. Wanted Suspects. During the 1970s, and presumably into the 1980s, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department had commissioned a series of jarring bumpers to be shown during the primetime and evening television spots. These brief clips would cut to a loud police siren and a blue screen. The narrator would begin by saying, quote, "This is a request from the Metropolitan Police," before showing black and white photos of wanted criminals in Japan, accompanied by their name, age, and crimes committed. This piece of lost media has an extensive history online, with many online forum users recalling the bumpers as sudden and frightening. Many shared similar testimonies, and recreations came about as well. Due to VHS recordings being less commonplace when these alerts were shown, it was assumed that documentation would be unlikely. On October 26th, Japanese archive channel 1977 Pop had uploaded over 30 minutes of a 1977 broadcast of Japanese television. Within it was one of the Wanted Suspects bumpers, marking it as the first one to be recovered. Now, it is unknown how many exist in total and what different variants were shown over the years. Superfan, The Story of Vladimir. This WWE documentary spotlights Vladimir Abuzi, a dedicated pro wrestling fan who has been attending live events for over 30 years. The documentary features a collection of interviews from a number of professional wrestlers. A 2021 release date for Superfan was announced. However, the date came and went without any release. Despite this, the documentary was shown at a Los Angeles Film Festival in June of 2021. It was later announced that Superfan was to be shelved indefinitely by the WWE for unknown reasons. It was also revealed that other planned documentaries were to be delayed or scrapped entirely. With Vladimir Abuzi being diagnosed with Parkinson's around the same time, many who worked on the film urged the company to finally release it. On October 27th, Superfan, The Story of Vladimir, was suddenly uploaded to Peacock and the WWE Network without prior announcement. Daredevil, The Man Without Fear. Initially intended for a 2003 release, Daredevil The Man Without Fear was a cancelled third-person action game based on the Marvel character of the same name. It was developed by 5000 Feet, published by Encore, and intended for release on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 2. The production of the game was plagued with difficulties. There was creative differences between Marvel and Sony, and internal issues within the development team. Ultimately, Daredevil The Man Without Fear was cancelled and never released. On October 31st, 2023, user Casually Noted uploaded a late prototype of the game from March 22, 2004 to hiddenpalace.org. The user had received the game from an anonymous developer who had worked for the development team. Additionally, a different user named Solid Snake modified the build, deeming it officially playable.
Get away from me! Get away from me!
Now and then. As a Beatles fan myself, allow me to explain, in the briefest way possible, the history of Now and Then, the last Beatles song. In 1970, the Beatles break up. The band members, Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, would go on to pursue solo careers. In 1977, John Lennon records a demo track for a song called Now and Then. The track is incomplete and features an annoying hiss throughout the entire recording. In 1980, John Lennon dies, destroying any chance at a Beatles reunion. In 1994, the surviving members reunite for the Beatles Anthology Project, which saw the release of 2 new songs, Free as a Bird and Real Love. These songs were based on demo tapes recorded by Lennon before his death. Now and Then was supposed to be included, but due to its poor quality, it was difficult to work with, and the song was scrapped. In 2001, George Harrison dies. Finally, in 2023, with advancements in technology, Lennon's demo of Now and Then was restored to a usable quality. McCartney and Starr reunited to work on the track. Using Harrison's pre-recorded guitar tracks from 1994, the Fab Four completed and released Now and Then, the final Beatles song. Little Shop. Back in 1991, Fox Kids produced a short-lived animated series based on the cult classic stage play and film Little Shop of Horrors. The cartoon followed a similar premise to the original dark comedy, but had aged down the characters and made everything more kid-friendly. Little Shop only lasted for 13 episodes, though saw reruns throughout the 90s. In 2015, a handful of episodes were uploaded to YouTube from VHS recordings, with a few more being recovered in the years following, all by different users. Then, in early 2017, YouTuber The Little Shop Archive uploaded 8 out of the 9 missing episodes. The search then stayed dormant for over 6 years, until finally, on November 2nd, 2023, the Little Shop Archive obtained and uploaded the final missing episode in English. LJN Video Art. LJN is an infamous toy company and video game publisher that is now known for its low-quality NES and SNES titles. Despite its infamy, in 1987, the company developed its own unique video game console called LJN Video Art. The system is so obscure that its exact date of release is unknown. This is thought to be due to outdated television connectivity for the era, among a variety of other grievances that led to poor sales. This console remained lost and unplayable for decades. LJN Video Art had one game that was paired with the console itself. This game, known as the Video Arts Activity Cartridge, provided various wireframe drawings to be colored in. In total, 9 cartridges were produced for the console, all with similar coloring mechanics. The console itself ran without any cartridge, in a similar fashion to Microsoft Paint. The only known footage of gameplay was from Siskel and Ebert's 1987 holiday gift guide, as well as a 2014 AVGN video on the console. In 2019, Internet Archive user The Man With No Plan presented photos and scans of most games and their respective manuals. However, even with all this new information, no actual emulator of the LJN Video Art existed. Well, that'll change on November 3rd of this year, when the console itself and all 9 games were finally dumped and made playable on MAME. This was a collaborative effort by Sean Riddle, David Butler, and 64s. King Koopa's Cool Cartoons Threat Episode. Now, normally I don't include pieces of lost media that are only partially found, but this is a special occasion. King Koopa's Cool Cartoons is an incredibly obscure live-action spin-off of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Information on the show itself remains sparse, though a commonly shared tidbit was that the original actor portraying King Koopa was somewhat problematic during filming. One specific rumor claimed that King Koopa threatened a viewer by stating something like, "I know where you live," on camera. This rumor had no substantial evidence until November 6th of this year. This was when the archive channel Beta Gems Lost Media uncovered a 5-minute segment of the show from October 16th, 1989. This specific upload happens to feature King Koopa making a very similar threat, albeit jokingly.
I know where you live, Arthur. I'll drop a complimentary piranha into your bathtub tonight, Arthur. You're dying my entire life, Arthur.
Murasame Castle Special. This was a one-shot episode from an 80s Japanese series with a name I literally cannot pronounce, but I'm told it translates to Kitten Club and Monday Dramaland. This 1-hour special was based on the game Mysterious Murasame Castle, released on Nintendo's Famicom system in 1986. This is believed to be the first live-action video game adaptation. It wasn't until this year that the YouTube channel Haruko Please located the full episode within a 2005 DVD set. It was uploaded to YouTube on November 7th, 2023. SpongeBob You Wish alternate patchy segments. During SpongeBob's years on the air, it's had its fair share of events episodes, such as Season 2's Shanghai. This episode was unique in that Nickelodeon allowed viewers to call in and vote on its ending. The plot involved the Flying Dutchman giving SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward 3 wishes. The first 2 are wasted by Patrick and SpongeBob, but viewers were allowed to vote on who would receive the final wish. For this reason, 3 separate endings were animated for this episode, with Patchy the Pirate announcing the winner. While all 3 endings are viewable online, the wraparound patchy segments for Patrick's or Squidward's endings remain lost. These segments were both found in Spanish in 2016, but the original English variants would not be recovered until much later. On January 26th of this year, Twitter user Blameitonjorge posted the full Squidward wraparound segments with English audio. On November 8th, YouTuber Nautical Nonsense had uploaded a camera recording of a post-production copy of Patrick's segment. Narco Gaze. Known as a meme within Latin America, this 2002 film is known for its low budget, dark humor, and the possibility of it not existing at all. The latter was due to many describing the film based on hearsay, and an inability to find any footage for years. The plot of Narco Gaze follows 2 men who aspire to be renowned within Mexico City's drug trafficking underworld, and many first-hand accounts describe the film as incredibly vulgar and offensive to the LGBTQ community. It was on November 10th that the film was confirmed to actually exist, as it was uploaded to YouTube in full by the channel Video Home Mexico. The Thick of It, ABC pilot. Originally airing on BBC from 2005 to 2012, The Thick of It was a political sitcom that portrayed a satirical perspective on a fictional section of the British government. The program was popular within its country of origin, and in 2007, the American network ABC commissioned a spin-off pilot. The adaptation of the original's British humor did not perform well, and the pilot went unaired and ultimately scrapped. Those who worked on The Thick of It's US pilot mentioned very little of it in the years to follow. The pilot was uncovered and uploaded to the YouTube channel Media Garage on November 16th. Taiwan 2001. Taiwan 2001 was intended to be a parody of the infamous Hong Kong 97. It was made for PC by a developer known as Kuso Soft, which translates to Crap Soft. This game is notorious for displaying heavily prejudiced themes towards Chinese people. It received a great deal of attention in Japan for this, as well as its difficulty, shoddy translations, and extremely graphic content, most notably containing real images of victims from the Holocaust and the Bosnian War. As one would expect, this game was not released officially and was offered online as freeware. The website containing the game went down, and no archives were available. On November 16th, Internet Archive user Andrew Varial successfully contacted the developer of Taiwan 2001 and received a zip file containing the full game. Backyard Safari. This 13-episode children's series aired on PBS in 1997 and gave an educational approach to understanding natural science concepts. Despite the absence of a home video release, the full series was reportedly viewable on Comcast's on-demand service during the early 2000s. Subsequently, in 2011, the show was offered on the Kentucky Educational Channel's webpage before being taken down in 2021. An episode of Backyard Safari was uploaded by YouTube user Funny Comedy Master after obtaining a bootleg DVD from eBay. Finally, a different user named Crazy Indian Boy 95 would obtain the full series from another unofficial eBay listing, which was then uploaded to YouTube and Google Drive on November 19th. SpongeBob Little Big Planet PSP commercial. In 2009, Viacom broadcasted an event called Think Happy Day, where all their channels aired 24 hours of SpongeBob SquarePants episodes. Each network featured unique bumpers that were also SpongeBob themed. During Comedy Central's Germany marathon, a commercial with SpongeBob playing Little Big Planet on a PSP was shown. Only a 1-second clip was available online, but the full commercial remained missing. On November 21st, only about a week after the Lost Media Wiki article was created, YouTube user Lazuli uploaded the full commercial. Shrek I Feel Good test animation. By now it's pretty well known that Shrek was originally to be voiced by SNL comedian Chris Farley. In fact, he had most of his lines for the film already recorded. Sadly, Chris Farley would pass away in 1997, and the role was passed on to Mike Myers, giving us the iconic Scottish-sounding ogre we know today. A test animation of an early rendition of Shrek was known to exist, and some storyboards were available online. The search really kicked off in 2022 when snippets of the animation were found, as well as some concept art and early character models. Finally, in November of this year, the full test animation was found by production designer Barry Jackson on the Zoom Art Studio YouTube channel. Voodoo Heartbeat. Voodoo Heartbeat is a surreal, low-budget horror film that saw a limited 1973 release following a premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. Those who produced the film were quite ambitious, boasting about the lead actor Mike Zapata and promising a sequel titled Dr. Blake's Revenge that went unmade. In 2013, 2 minutes of the film were uploaded to YouTube, but were promptly removed. In 2023, the film distributor/restoration company Vinegar Syndrome announced the release of Vinegar Syndrome's Lost Picture Show, an omnibus of 10 obscure films thought to be lost to time. Voodoo Heartbeat was included in the set, seeing its first official distribution on November 24th.
Warning. Be sure you're mature enough to witness the shocking details of this motion picture.
Kenya Dance. This refers to a 3-second snippet of an unidentified song that was originally featured in the video How to Pick Up Girls in 30 Different Countries by former YouTuber Filthy Frank, who now goes by Joji. Viewers were unable to find the original song, and the mystery eventually became a popular Lost Wave topic. Search efforts began back around the time of the video's upload, as viewers directly asked Joji what the song was. He eventually did respond with a video annotation that read, "Don't know the name, stop asking." Now, despite being known as the Kenya Dance song, it was found to be Ugandan in origin, with the lyrics alluding it to being a gospel song. For 10 years, no significant progress was made. It was on December 3rd when a YouTuber named NB Duckman had posted a $300 bounty to anyone able to provide the full song. Only 7 hours later, a Discord user named Damn Peggy sent a link to the full song. Kenya Dance is now officially identified as the 2011 song Katunda Alinda Way by David Son JC. Combination Lock Pilots. Combination Lock was the vision of John Ritchie Jr., known for hosting various game shows. The game's premise was initially composed in 1989 when Ritchie was a high school student. It wouldn't be until the mid-2000s that Ritchie would revisit the concept and pitch it as a full game show. When initially brought to the UK market, a pilot was filmed and not picked up. This process would repeat a year later when Ritchie pitched the show to US networks, and a second pilot was produced, and once again scrapped. The first pilot was uploaded back in 2020 by TV and radio personality Wink Martindale. The second pitch would not be found until December 10th, when Martindale uploaded this pilot to YouTube. Batman, Jason Todd Lives. In 1988, DC Comics made the controversial decision of allowing the audience to decide if a major Batman character would live or die. That character was Jason Todd, the comic's second Robin. Since Todd's introduction in 1983, many readers, and even DC staff, disliked the character. Many speculate that this was the reason behind the Death in the Family call-in line, a ballot made to decide whether Robin would live or die following a confrontation with the Joker. In the end, Jason Todd ended up dying. Because there was 2 possible endings to this issue, alternate pages where Robin lives were assumed to exist as well. Some fans were skeptical, however, as many fans felt the poll made no difference and this ending was already planned from the start. In the years following, some panels from the alternate conclusion had surfaced, but it wasn't until December 12th that DC officially released the full work as a part of their From the DC Vault series. While the original 1988 panels went unfinished, this release completed the chapter's conclusion with new art based on the original drafts. Fawn My Mind. Fawn My Mind is a well-known unidentified dance song within the Lost Wave community. A 30-second snippet of the song was uploaded in 2013 on various web pages, ultimately ending up on the Spirit of Radio, the forum known for popularizing the original Most Mysterious Song on the internet. While Fawn My Mind has been a topic since that initial 2013 upload, the search really didn't begin until 2019, when the song was brought forward on r/Lostwave. Eventually, a DJ was contacted who had information on the song itself. In short, multiple members of the Fawn My Mind Discord server had contacted the song's producer, and the title and artist were finally confirmed. The song is now officially identified as Feels Like a Wish by Brazilian group Station K. The song was released in 1993. Glago's Guest. During the theatrical release of Disney's 2008 film Bolt, a short titled Glago's Guest was created with the intention of including it in showings. It was directed by Chris Williams, who had also co-directed Bolt at the same time. Glago's Guest was Williams' sole directorial debut, with the plot involving a Russian soldier in Siberia during the 20th century. The short was unfortunately not well received at test screenings. This led to Disney ultimately deciding to make the Cars short, Tokyo Mater, to be premiered before Bolt instead. Glago's Guest was only publicly shown one time, during the Annecy Film Festival in June of 2008. The animation was not heard from again until 10 years later in 2018. This was when an online auction for a screener copy, meant to be given out to critics and media outlets, had sold to a user named Anime Golem. This user expressed concerns in uploading the film, and ultimately decided against it. Another screener copy would not surface until this year, when it was sold to user Ziggy Kashmir, a user who uploaded the short to both YouTube and archive.org on December 15th. Hip Hip Parade. In 1978, PBS affiliates aired a primetime special referred to as Hip Hip Parade. The program was meant to precede the 52nd annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The special was notably hosted by Kermit the Frog and Fozzie Bear, and had occurred during the Muppet Show's initial run. It featured exclusive footage of the floats prior to the parade itself, including rare test flight footage of the first Snoopy balloon. Hip Hip Parade only rebroadcasted once on local PBS stations in New Jersey in 1979. Given the age of the special, it was unknown if any home recordings existed, and the only surviving information was through a newspaper article promoting the broadcast. At last, on Christmas Eve, YouTube user RaiNoi84 uploaded the entire 29-minute special. Super Sushi Pinball. Nintendo released their very first home video game console in 1983 with the Famicom. In 1985, the company would release its console in the West as the Nintendo Entertainment System. The console received localized versions of many Famicom games, though there are a significant number that were inevitably scrapped. Super Sushi Pinball was among these cancelled titles. Known in Japan as simply Super Pinball, localization efforts were picked up by CSG ImageSoft, and the game was initially unveiled during 1989's Consumer Electronics Show. The gameplay remained the same, but the original Mahjong theme was revised to feature sushi visuals instead. This is yet another game that was obtained from the private collection of Edward J. Semrad, who owned a number of unreleased games over the past 2 years. Super Sushi Pinball was uploaded to hiddenpalace.org by the Video Game History Foundation on December 25th. Que sera sera. Here's a Lost commercial I discussed fairly recently within my video of scary Lost PSAs. This missing ad first came to light in 2021, when a Reddit user known as Anonymous Redditor made a post recalling it on a number of different subreddits. They stated that the ad featured home video footage of a girl, who eventually grew up and morphed into an ill-looking woman with a gaunt and battered appearance. Various users have recalled seeing this supposed PSA on TV, some narrowing the time period and location to the early 2000s and within the United Kingdom. However, it wasn't until 2023 that a breakthrough was made. As it turns out, Que Sera Sera was not a PSA after all. The commercial didn't involve drug use. It was actually a 2011 promo for the UK true crime documentary series Snapped. The full promo was found by the Lost Commercials Foundation Discord server on December 30th. It was uploaded to Vimeo by the ads director Martin Gent. Vector Man, PS2, and finally we conclude this list with a reboot of a Sega classic. Vector Man was originally a platformer released for the Sega Genesis/Mega Drive back in 1995. The original game sold quite well, though the series would fall into obscurity in the years to follow. What's not commonly known is that a reboot of the series was in the works, planned for a 2004 release on the PlayStation 2. Vector Man was unveiled at E3 2003, but was ultimately scrapped that same year for unknown reasons. It was on December 30th that Sega Dreamcast Info had released 11 builds of Vector Man, including the playable alpha build that was presented at E3. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think this is officially the biggest list and the longest video I've ever done, so I really hope you enjoyed it. 2023 was a crazy year, a lot of lost media finds. I think 2022 had bigger, more important finds, but 2023 was a solid year, and as I'm recording this, I'm being told that stuff for 2024 is already being found, so I'm already working on the next one. But yeah, check out the Patreon for the Lost Media Wiki if you want to support their efforts in preserving lost media. And yeah, I will see you guys later. See ya.